It's the Honkin Zebo Special!
Oh, God help me! Five Nights at Freddy's. It's a week at Frederick's! Look, if you've been on the internet at the gaming scene, or have a child under 16, you know what Five Nights at Freddy's is. A hit indie game franchise made by a down-on-his-luck developer Scott Cawthon after his last game, Chipper & Sons, was heavily criticized for its character design, looking like terrifying animatronics. Which he took that criticism and went, yeah, but what if I just did that? And released Five Nights at Freddy's 1 at the perfect time of 2014, which was the era of watching Let's Players scream at horror games because the people watching it were too chicken shit to actually play them themselves. Like me. This was my jam.
Oh, fuck you! Oh god! What the fuck?
And from there, the FNAF franchise kind of, exploded in popularity, and would go on to influence and shape the indie horror game scene for years to come. For better or for worse. Five Nights at Freddy's has always fascinated me too. From the early days that made me go, yes! Finally! Someone made a game about my childhood traumas! These things were monsters, and they were out to kill you! But nowadays, the franchise has completely morphed into something else, and I'm more interested on where the fuck it's even going at this point. Because this small horror game about angry spirits possessing robots has an ongoing narrative that is so vague and cumbersome that it can go toe-to-toe with the lore of Kingdom Hearts!
Guys, let me tell ya, there's nothing like learning the fact that the child serial killer in these games is actually a tech warlock, and that the Chuck E. Cheese might just be the Illuminati for all the sci-fi shit and government cover-ups that they performed. And you would only know this if you read the books, which have no bearing on the plot of the games, but have tiny small implications that might just be important to the main story. I am not making this up, this is all real.
But as we await for the games to somehow unveil that all these possessed animatronics were made to make an army in order to fight fucking Xenu, we're going to have to talk about the film side of things, because Five Nights at Freddy's has a film that has been stuck in development hell for 8 years. But now it's apparently out this month by the time of this recording, meaning this video's just gonna be buried. Thanks, Blumhouse. But during the 8-year development of hell, it turns out that 2 parody films came out before the FNAF movie, with one of them being about, and I can't believe I'm saying this, the banana splits, and the other one being the subject of today's video, in which it takes the dark, haunting halls of the pizzeria, where the past horrors echo throughout the empty halls, and things beyond our comprehension slowly come forth into reality. And then somebody decided to throw this guy into that concept.
I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
Well, this bodes well. Well, hi guys, it's me, a DavKav, your favorite schmuck. And I want to welcome you all to this year's Honkin Zebo on Willy's Wonderland, a film that has the tagline, "What if you see Nicolas Cage beat up the cast of Five Nights at Freddy's?" Well, I'm fucking invested! Now, I've actually not seen this movie yet because I wanted to save this for a video, but everything I've heard about it from the majority of people say it's amazing. So, let's see if it's worth the hype, as guys, I want to talk to you all about Willy's Wonderland.
So, the film starts out with a grainy commercial for Willy's Wonderland, before we hard cut to a couple running for their lives inside the restaurant. As we see the husband get dragged off and the wife run into the main room as the lights start to blow out. And as the dust settles, she sees a little girl as the wife smiles, before she then gets mutilated off screen.
Ooh, nasty.
We then cut to our hero driving down the scenic route before he runs into a spike trap left on the road. This is... Actually, he doesn't have a name. The film actually just credits him as the janitor, but it's Nicolas Cage, guys. I'm just gonna be calling him Nicolas Cage throughout the whole thing, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. So, Nicolas Cage gets picked up by a tow truck, and we learn that he's a man of 0 words. Before we then cut to the outside of Willy's as a girl named Liv is trying to burn the place to the ground.
Ah, smart! She knows that only high temperatures can neutralize remnant ghost metal that is keeping the souls of children hostage. Yes! Ghost metal! This used to be a spooky horror game. What are you doing, guys?
But before she can burn the place down, the police arrive and arrest her on the spot. She is then taken back home, where she gets a glance of Cage before being cuffed to a radiator and given a bucket to piss in. So this is what happens to the cell budget after one buys a police tank. Your taxpayers' money, everyone. Spent well. Anyway, we cut back to Cage at the car shop where the mechanic explains to him that it's gonna be a pretty hefty amount for the tires and that they can only take cash. And since their only ATM is broken, he's gonna have to make some spare change. The mechanic then makes a deal with Cage to meet up with the owner of Willy's Wonderland, Tex McAdoo. Tex shows Cage around the decrepit establishment as he explains that this place used to be an extravagant entertainment center. But due to the kids getting hurt around the robots, the lawsuits, and maybe a frontal lobe getting bit off, he had to shut this place down. But now he plans to revitalize the brand, and he wants Cage's help to clean up the place. Which Cage accepts, and now he's the janitor of Willy's Wonderland.
Congratulations. You are officially on staff.
But just a warning for you, boy. These animatronics tend to get quirky at night, if you know what I'm saying. Oh yeah, and watch out for that pixie one. Tends use teeth.
We then cut back to Liv as she is visited and rescued by her friends. And it's here where we get to play everyone's favorite game show, Who's Gonna Die? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have 5 fantastic individuals, and one of them will have a chance to meet a cruel and sick end that is known to man. And it's up to you to figure out which one of these teens will get absolutely eviscerated. Do you think it will be A, Discount Fred from Scooby-Doo, B, that guy with the glasses, C, the simp, D, the African-American guy, or E, the Kardashian? Write your answers down and choose wisely. The timer starts now. And time's up. The correct answer was F, everyone! Oh, this is gonna be a bloodbath, people!
Damn it! Knew I shouldn't have picked Sean Bean. But it usually works, though.
So Liv and the dead friend gang leave as we cut back to Cage getting ready for the job. He gets his company t-shirt on, sets his watch, and begins to straighten up the place. All the while, the animatronics start to move while he's not looking. Creepy stuff, but never mind that, because it's mandatory break time, as he pops open a can of cola and makes an important discovery in the kitchen. A fully functional pinball machine. Oh, baby. But that's gotta wait. Time to get back to work.
Well, that gave me a bit of blue balls. Blue pinballs, that is!
So Cage gets back to work sweeping up the debris as the ostrich starts to power up and creep his way towards Cage. When Cage turns around to see the ostrich right behind him, he prods the thing before the ostrich states, "I'm gonna face them, your face!" And it proceeds to attack him. Cage, unfazed by this, blocks every hit until the ostrich gets a cut in.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Cage wins. Fatality.
We then cut to the police station as we see the sheriff from before, along with her deputy, explaining that they're waiting overnight in case something goes down at Willy's, with the sheriff showing much dread of the thought. As we then cut back to Cage, who is getting a new shirt, putting duct tape onto his wound, and putting the remains of the ostrich into a trash bag. But oh boy, guess what time it is? Break time! But instead of just relaxing, Cage decides to take his time to clean off the pinball machine to its original glory. And break's over. Back to work cleaning up the men's bathroom, and oof, graffiti. That's gonna be a tough one to get out. But you know what? That won't stop Cage, because he's a professional. And he's very thorough. And after he leaves the entire place spotless, he then hears the main stage act up. It turns out the animatronics have been turned on and are singing Happy Birthday with an obvious murdery vibe to it. Then Cage just turns off the power and returns to work. As he returns to the bathroom, it appears that blood has been written on the mirror and a voice telling him that they're playing hide and seek now. Cage proceeds to kick in all the stalls, and when he gets to the last, he gets jumped by the gorilla, who proceeds to toss Cage around before Cage retaliates with a plunger. Cage then throws the gorilla into a mirror and proceeds to ram this thing's head repeatedly into a urinal, thereby killing the thing.
Well, Rippy Pippy Mecha Harambe.
So Cage gets a new shirt, duct tapes his entire body, and attempts to take the two bots out to the trash, before he realizes the doors are locked, and turns around to stare down Willy. And break time, meaning more cola, and finally, pinball. Yeah, boy. And then we cut to the teams coming to Willy's. Oh yeah, them. They attempt to burn the place down, only for Liv to remember that someone is still in there. So she decides to go in through the air ducts, in which she's then chased by the gator and escapes into the pixie's den. Or siren, or I'm just gonna call her a pixie. and you can't stop me from doing that! So now the pixie is stalking Liv through the trees, and when she comes face to face with the monster, Liv starts swinging. Oh, yeah. I think I like her now. But her fight can't seem to help as she gets tackled and screams, which alerts Cage. He goes to check, finding blood on the floor, but no worries, cause it turns out that Liv is fine and was able to stab the pixie with her knife. Okay, alright, I really like her now. Meanwhile, outside, the Scooby Gang decide that they should head in, all except the black guy who opted to leave, but sadly had to change his mind when his slutty girlfriend decided to stay. Then they go up to the roof, which caves in, and they all fall into the ball pit. Which, unlike in Five Nights at Freddy's, doesn't allow them to time travel back to 1985 because yes, that is in the fucking books! So the teens learn that Liv is alright, before she then attempts to stab the pixie, only to be stopped by Cage. Probably because he just cleaned that spot. So everyone returns to the kitchen as Liv now tells Cage the horrible truth about Willy's. It turns out that this entire establishment was created and run by a group of serial killers, who used the disguise of the restaurant in order to murder the guests. And before they were ever caught by the police, they performed a satanic ritual in which their souls were transferred into the animatronics.
Well, at least it's better than magic ghost metal, I can tell you that!
We then see that our African-American friend and the floozy went into the back room to... play DDR, sure! Let's go with that excuse. Meanwhile, the gang hears that the main stage has been turned on, and all the teens decide to meet Willy face to face.
What do you mean that death threat's copyrighted?
And then our discounted Fred gets stabbed by a giant sword. This causes everyone to spread out as we see Glasses get killed in the seizure room, thanks movie, our DDR couple get a bad case of gator gout, and Simpy Shaggy decides to hide but gets lured out by the most obvious trap you can think of. Because this is a horror movie, our main 5 kids only have one brain cell to share. But as these grotesque murders are happening in front of us, there is one fatal flaw that our killers fail to realize. Break time is over. So Cage decapitates the knight and rips a gator's throat out, as we then cut to Simpy calling the police and saying that Liv is inside the restaurant. This causes both the sheriff and the deputy to go to the scene, and while they get there, the sheriff explains more of the story. Long ago, when Tex actually bought the place and tried to refurbish it, the animatronics turned on and went on a massacre throughout the town. And there was nothing that the sheriff or anyone else could do to stop them. So, in a fit of desperation, they made a deal with Willy and the gang. If the animatronics would spare the town, then the townsfolk will give them sacrifices, thus creating a cycle where they trap passerbys into the town, make them work as janitors, and meet their demise in the end. However, the night with the couple from the beginning of this film had something none of them expected. They had a kid with them who survived the entire night, in which the sheriff took the kid under her wing, and she grew up to be Liv. And enough about that, let's get back to Willy's, where we see Simpy get yeeted, and Liv and Cage, with a new shirt on, go to take on the lizard. Or, you know, just live because it's break time.
Remember, breaks are important. Breaks are very important.
So now Liv has to defend herself while Cage sure plays a mean pinball. But as fast as you can say the unbearable weight of massive talent, break time is over and Cage chokes the lizard. The two of them drag the lizard out before they meet, oh hey, there's the teeth that dude mentioned. But then Cage decides to just cold cock the both of them before leading the lizard outside. And when he finally gets outdoors, he then sees the sheriff point a barrel at him. But instead of realizing that 4 out of the 8 animatronics have been stolen out of existence, and that Cage is still alive, cleaning the place spotless, we see that that one brain cell I mentioned is shared throughout the town, as we see the sheriff handcuff Cage, leaving him to die here, and deciding to take Liv away from this place. So now with his hands literally tied, Cage must now survive both the lizard and the pixie at the same time. And you would think being handcuffed would even slow him down. Meanwhile, Liv is being driven away by the deputy as she tries to convince him to go back. But before anything can even happen, the car is attacked by the turtle animatronic, and he proceeds to kill the deputy. We see that Liv tries to shoot down the turtle, but he already took the bullets out from the shotgun. And while that is transpiring, we cut back to Willy's, where we see the pixie is going out in a way that all men could dream of, being crushed to death between Nicolas Cage's legs. God bless her. Then we see Cage break out of his cuffs, head towards the lizard, and perform a tornado twist. We then cut back to Liv, who realizes that a shotgun can also work as a hefty stick, and beats the turtle into submission by going for the gold. Finally, someone actually goes for the nads. Like, seriously, men crumble if you flick them, and yet nobody in these films actually go for them. And as we see the turtle beg for mercy, we then cut back to Cage, who is getting a new shirt on, and begins to finish up cleaning. After which, he then turns back to see just Willy, giving him the stare down. And break time, and what a break it is, as we just get non-stop pinball, baby, pinball! And you can tell this guy is having a great time, and from that expression, motherfucker got the highest score, meaning he's not only a professional, he's a goddamn pinball wizard, baby. Oh yeah! So Cage then gets off his break and finally is able to take out the trash of 7 dead robots. This of course gets the attention of the sheriff, who decide to wait for the execution to be done, and you know what? Cage even waves to her. I got nothing for this. This is just funny. And of course, instead of the sheriff putting 2 and 2 together, she takes her gun, points it at Cage, and demands him to be the sacrifice as she calls out for Willy, in which Willy does show up and proceeds to murder the sheriff.
Well, Rippy Pippy Sheriff.
And now it's time for the climactic showdown between Nicolas Cage and Willy, which... I kind of wish Willy said something. Okay, now I know we're almost at the end, but this might be the best moment to talk about this. You see, throughout the film, Nicolas Cage says nothing, not a single word, which I would think would be a detriment because this is a man made for crazy outbursts. But somehow the film just makes it work, and really, to have a character that resonates this intimidating energy, and yet have him just clean a decrepit Chuck E. Cheese to make cash, and take the job and the rules to heart, I don't know, it feels like only Nicolas Cage could pull that off. Either him or Keanu Reeves. But on the flip side, we've seen Willy talk, and yet, in this final battle, he doesn't chime in after everything that has went down, which, I don't know, kind of makes him feel a little inept. I mean, he and his gang practically ruled this town with his satanic strength, and in a few short hours, this one dude just slaughters everyone, proving that Satan can't do shit. And yet this final battle, the fact that he hasn't even mentioned anything, it kind of makes it feel none of it has actually set in, that, you know, everything he's worked for has just fell apart at the seams. I don't know, this is just a small nitpick, but I kind of wish he'd said something about his undoing. Especially that we know why he saved Cage for last. The dude beat his pinball score, so now he has to die personally. And because of that, Willy pulls no punches as he shreds at Cage. And for the first time in this film, Cage takes a fall. And that makes everything go quiet. And then, while the halls echo, Cage comes back with revengeance! As he goes into the back rooms, gathers all the cans, puts them in a sack, and ties up the broken broom together. He walks out with fiery determination. He's not looking for help, and he doesn't need any. Cause this is no time for a savior. It's time for round fucking 2.
They made this movie for me!
So now with Willy dead, the nightmare was over. Come next morning, Tex enters the place to find the whole thing spotless, and Cage still being in one piece. Baffled and in awe, Tex gives him the keys to his fixed car as he proceeds to leave, and does so with Liv, since there's nothing else binding her to this place anymore. However, it seems like the pixie is still alive, and as Tex and the mechanic are planning to refigure the restaurant, she kills them, along with herself, by exploding their car. And as we come to a conclusion, we see Cage and Liv on the road, sharing a cola, as they run over the turtle from before, killing all the bots, and ending the film.
And that's what I have to say about Willy's Wonderland. It's exactly what you get, and it was made just for me.
I'm not a big fan of horror. I get squeamish sometimes, and even though I shouldn't, I do question the hero's intelligence in these films. So the majority of times I actually go out to watch a horror film, it's when I get to see a killer go toe-to-toe with a really cool dude. Or Jason X. So not only does this film serve on this niche of mine, but it also takes on my childhood trauma with a nail-encrusted baseball bat. Plus, while we didn't get a classic Cage outburst in this film, we still got punching a woman while in a bear costume levels of Cage. So yeah, this film will definitely be on my all-time favorite horror films next to Evil Dead 2, Alien, Predator, and John Carpenter's The Thing. So I am glad that I was able to see this film, and hopefully we'll see more of this and whatever the creators do next. But mainly, I just want to see who will have to take on Nicolas Cage. Maybe Jason. No, Jigsaw. I want that guy's entire operation to fall apart like it did for the Puzzler.
And that's another trip to the Honkin Zebo done and over with. Meaning next month, we're gonna be looking at Tokusatsu. And for this one, it stars one of Japan's most famous superheroes. That's right, Spider-Man. We're talking about Japanese Spider-Man. But until then, thank you all for watching. Like and subscribe if you want, really helps out the channel. Have a happy Halloween, stay safe out there, and I don't know, enjoy the Five Nights at Freddy's movie coming out. I hope they mention Fazgoo. Dear God, what happened to this series? It used to be scary.